my great honor to be here to share with you this conference. So I would like to thank organizers and especially people who are involved in the Central European Academy, because organizing such a conference is not an easy way. I decided, perfect, because almost all of you addressed in the prior session the children. But so I decided to speak about another vulnerable group, and that is elderly. We know that the world population, so my presentation is titled with the still hidden and silent financial exploitation of elderly. And we already heard many times today that the world population is still growing, and I was searching for the current situation, how many people is the world population, and we will in few days probably pass 8.1 billion population. So it is still growing, but it is not growing so fast as in the past. But the structure of the population pyramid, you can see, I'm not from the demography, so I'm just giving the brief insight. You can see that the structure of so-called demographic population pyramids are changing and will also change through the next 50 or 100 years. For example, if you take a look in the year 1950, there was a pyramid which is called expansive, I read, and that means that many persons is going are young at the age, and with every other age group it is smaller. That is especially present in the societies where is very high fertility rate, but there's low life expectancy. That is facing, for example, in the States, in the Africa. Then we can see Europe in 2010. That is the current situation. It is a constructive pyramid, and there is lower percentage of younger people that we heard in many of our societies. In the Europe, we are facing the same problem, and then we have what will be present in the future, expecting in 2100 that will be a stationary pyramid and almost equal members of every age group, and which is of course getting older. The groups are getting smaller because of course the life expectancy will be higher. You can see that is about 105 years. There's more people that, for example, as in year 1950. But what is about Slovenia and also other countries? For example, today's society, especially in Europe and thus also in Slovenia, is long-lived. On average, people are living longer than they did in the past. Naturally, as people get older, questions arise, both for elderly and, of course, for their descendants. For example, regarding the settlement of the property matters during the life, and of course, in particular, in the event of mortis causa. If you take a look at these statistics, it is Slovenian statistics, the children born, for example, 2001, in which my second child is born, and 2011, in which my third child is born, the life expectancy grow for 3 years for female and male. So my youngest child is expected to be older than 3 years as the middle child. As life and lifespan increase, the onset of inheritance is also delayed. Children have to wait longer than in the past for their inheritance. For example, as you saw, we have 100 people who are 100 years old, so it could be that their children are 80 years old and they're still waiting on the inheritance. However, since individuals are not willing to wait until their parents die, they're looking for ways, options, to get their hands on their parents' assets before their parents will pass away. It is therefore not surprising that pressures on elderly parents have increased in recent years. This had also led to an increase in violence, especially economic violence, abuse against elderly parents. As a consequence, the early inheritance syndrome or inheritance impatience is becoming an increasingly common problem. Some adult children, as already mentioned, it could be adult children 60, 70, or 80 years old, have a sense of entitlement to their parents' property and assume that it's already theirs. They are prepared to do many things to realize this so-called their right, also including legally impermissible acts. The early inheritance syndrome is a form of financial abuse of elderly. It is a growing problem in society where older people are living longer and are richer on the other side than ever before. That is also the situation in Slovenia, probably in all other countries, and so on. Adult children with early inheritance syndrome have a sense of entitlement to their elderly parents' assets. These impatient children are not prepared to wait for their parents to die. They look for ways to get their parents to give them money or interfere in the administration of their parents' estate to protect what they see as their right. As a result, the topic of inheritance has taken new importance, new meaning in social debates on aging. For example, issues related to inheritance like last wills, bequest, forced share, contract for lifetime maintenance can have a significant impact on retirement security and quality of life in the old age. Inheritance raises the questions of how older people should balance on one side competing demands of helping family members. For example, they have money, they are feeling to give the support to their children, and on the other side to save the money property for the old age or leaving an inheritance in the event of their death. And of course the elderly parents also want to have a warm and safe home, pension security, of course, health security. They also want a quality life in the old age, especially if they are very good, healthy. They are traveling, they're buying properties, they're going to the spas and so on, so they want to enjoy the life. And especially, of course, they want to have violence-free life in the old age. Perpetrators of the financial abuse can be individuals who are known to the elderly persons. It could be adult children, it could be also adult grandchildren, it could be spouses. It could happen that someone is having a younger spouse, so this younger spouse is not really in love with the elder person, so is expecting to pass away to get this property. And it could also be caregivers, for example, nursing homes, neighbors, also friends. And it could also be the professionals in the position of trust, for example, also lawyers or accountants who are familiar with the property of this elder person. It could also be strangers, which could also exploit vulnerable elders through scams or fraudulent schemes, which are very popular. Probably all of us already get an email that some relative passed away in the United States, and if you pay the money, you will get the inheritance. So it's very common. And there are also many other such scams which are addressed to elder people. Financial economic violence or abuse is a form of elder abuse and can have devastating effects on the victim's financial security, emotional well-being, and overall quality of life. Children, or even strangers, as already mentioned, or other relatives or persons can put pressure on their parents, spouses, or neighbors and so on to obtain property. For example, what are the signs? The signs are that elder people attempts by family members to unduly influence their parents' decisions, including by encouraging them to make change or revoke a will that has already been made. That is very common. For example, if elder person, father, writes last will in the benefit of the one child, and another child will put pressure on the father to change the will. Elderly persons often change their minds about an advanced will. Under the Slovenian law, that is defined in the Patients' Rights Act, there is a possibility to write an advanced will. Who should make the medical decision regarding this elderly person when this person won't be anymore able to make the decisions by own? There are many times lack of money for everyday items. For example, we know that our mother is having good pension, but she's not buying daily food, no new clothes, and so on. And she mentioned that she does not have money. But there's no connection, because on one side she should have money, but on the other side she is missing the money. There are many times loss of the jewelry or personal belongings or valuables. For example, there's also a problem because people are getting older, and if you have a person who is 80, 90 years old, this person are not anymore sure if he lost this property, if he put somewhere and cannot find, or even if this property was stolen. So they are not they're not sure. On the other side, the elderly persons express fear, anxiety, or confusion when discussing finances, property, and possessions. For example, if people are dement, they are not anymore aware about correct financial situation, and so they are afraid and have fear to discuss about these topics. There are unexplained amounts of money missing or disappearing from a bank account. That means that someone is having access to this bank account of this elderly person. There are, on the other side, they're having the pension, but they're unpaid invoices. Of course, these people are losing the confidence, because if they are aware that there's present financial abuse, they're afraid. They are not. They're afraid to tell someone because they're put under the pressure, under the physical abuse also could happen, also emotional abuse, and so they are losing the confidence also towards other persons. Elder family members are usually forced to sign documents of the transfer of their assets to the younger family members, and of course, if the violence is performed to the elderly person and someone who is perpetrator is aware of these unallowed actions, is trying to isolate this person from family members or friends, so that so it is not allowed to visit this person. They are not giving proper information to other friends and so on, to keep this person isolated. And for example, also it could happen that elderly persons which already make the transfer of the property, for example, of the house to the younger generation, with the promise that the younger generation will take care about the elderly parents, they force elderly parents to move to a retirement home because they want to use their house or even their money. What are the reasons? Of course, here are just two types of illiteracy which are connected to elderly persons. For example, there's so-named financial illiteracy, which refers to a lack of knowledge and understanding of basic financial concepts and skills necessary to make informed and effective financial decisions. On the other side, we also have consumer illiteracy. That is almost very similar because they are lacking the knowledge for making the decisions regarding the consumer practice. And regarding this, we have also insurance illiteracy, we have health illiteracy, we can also say digital illiteracy, and all this together makes elder persons more vulnerable. For example, you can see that in one survey in the United States in 2022, just through the scams, elder people lost $3.1 billion through the scams. For example, very popular are so-called love scams because I made a research project with my students about the pitfalls on the web for the elderly people, and we also wanted to see what is about the love romantic relations, and we found out that many people are also could be victims of the so-called love scams, when someone is pretending to be in love in the romantic relation with an elderly person. And once, I cannot buy ticket, my mother is ill, please send me additional money, and so on. And there is also very popular so-called grandchildren scam. Someone is pretending that he or she is the grandchild of this elderly person, and that they are stuck somewhere and they need money. Or police scam. Because someone pretending that he or she is police and is coming to the house that in the neighborhood have been performed robbery, and if they have any jewelry, they should give to this person as police to take to the bank to be safe. So we can see that elderly are very vulnerable to many financial abuses and relating also to scams. So for the conclusion, what can we make? For example, also elderly persons knew many times that they are victims of such abuse, also other domestic types of abuse, physically, emotionally, and in our case, financial, and they do not know. They're ashamed. They're ashamed because they're ashamed that when they recognize that they gave money to the false policeman. So they are not they are afraid to tell family members what is happening. So how can we recognize that someone was under the financial abuse? We should be aware, for example, of the signs which I already mentioned. It could be one, it could be more, or it could be also additional signs. Communication. Communication is very important for all of us, and especially for elderly generation. And if they have trust, they will open and they will speak about such situations. And if there are any evidence, for example, we should gather any relevant evidence of such abuse, and if it is necessary, because also elderly persons and also we are sometimes not familiar with such situation, we should involve professionals which could provide guidance and assistance. There are such, for example, as lawyers specializing in elder law, but in Slovenia I didn't find any, because like in Slovenia, probably I don't know how it's in your countries, also family law is not on the priority list of any lawyers because it's no financing. For example, it's much more property law or company law. It's much more money for the lawyers. So, and the elder law is coming, law which is growing and growing because, as already mentioned, the generations are getting older and older. There could be also financial advisors or even social workers. So, that is, thank you for your attention.